Welcome everyone to the latest edition of the Inside Track Series 6, Session 1. How are you doing, Rob? Welcome aboard.
I'm good, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And our first guest of the series, Jon Wright. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Ryan. I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being our first guest of the new series. I've obviously wanted to get you on for a while because you obviously we've got close friends, and I think in terms of the business that you're doing, I think it's quite poignant in the time. So it's definitely worth speaking to you. Now, some people won't know who you are. I'm sure most people do, Jon. You've been around the industry a long time, so I'm sure most people do. But for those guys that don't know who you are, do you want to give us a quick rundown of Jon Wright's sort of career, where you've been and where you are now?
Well, I suppose I was best known for founding Exercise for Less back in 2009. We were one of the first people to do budget clubs, and we built that up from one site in 2009. We eventually got up to 52.
Wow.
From Southend-in-Sea, in Essex, all the way up to Dundee. So, I sold that to private equity in series 5 or 6 different deals between 2013 and 2019. Still had a small stake left in 2019 when unfortunately just before COVID hit. But as lots of people did at the time, that wiped that bit of equity out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And since then, what have you been going on to do?
So I'm really interested. What am I interested in? I'm interested in the next thing after gyms. Having done gyms all my working life, what I'm really interested in is the next thing, and specifically regarding technology.
Right.
So, obviously we're going to talk about the EMS today quite a lot, but I'm also involved in another business which looks at augmented reality fitness as well.
Oh, wow. Now that we can definitely dive into, because I love the idea of that. So we'll definitely come back to that.
Well, in terms of, virtual reality, for me, virtual reality and fitness, I sweat a lot when I train. So, every time I've done something with virtual reality, for me, I became very uncomfortable very quickly just because I was sweating so much. Yeah. And I think where augmented reality, with just wearing a pair of glasses, it takes it to a new level and makes it a much more comfortable customer experience. And the thing I'm involved with Dan Clayton, who I'm sure you know, he's involved as well, and it's in a really exciting project, but we can talk about that later.
The virtual reality stuff's been pushed for a while, hasn't it? We've always seen it. I think I saw it at Leisure Industry Week years and years ago, and it's never really taken grip, I don't think. But
I personally think it's because if you train, you sweat, and when you've got a headset on, it's just not a comfortable experience.
If you've ever tried to do the boxing on the Oculus, people will understand it. We have the Oculus here. We play the cricket and all sorts of stuff on it. Cricket's all right. You don't really sweat playing cricket. But if you do any of the exercise stuff, you're right, Jon. It is. And then the problem you've got is it's okay if you own that mask. You can sort of get away. The moment you then try hand that to someone else after you've just been on it for 10 minutes and sweated all over it, those, from a hygiene perspective and whatever, it's all right in your home. You can sort of get away with it, but you sort of have to use that in a business environment. It becomes a challenge. So the augmented reality and how that's changing, and obviously the glasses now. I mean, you look at Meta's new ones. I mean, they're almost not. They're not far off like these. They're incredible pieces of kit.
Yeah, no, it's a really exciting business, and it's a great space to be in. I mean, we've been sort of building that for a couple of years. It's based out in South Africa, which is where it's been developed. But Dan and I are sort of bringing it to the UK this year and basing it here, where we've just a bit more access to funding. The tech guys are based in England as well, so it just made sense to move it over here.
Again, can you tell us more about it? I guess the one thing that people talk about is gamification and everything. is it a matter of taking fitness and gamifying it, or is it almost?
So this business is called ArcFit, and where it's really clever, it works on the cognitive development as well as physical. So let's say, for instance, it's easy to demonstrate it, but I'll try and tell you about it. So imagine you're just out for a run or on a treadmill or on a bike, and you've got the glasses on, and you've got images coming. You've got to sort of punch them and hit them. So you're doing this. So you're working your brain at the same time, and it records it, and then it gamifies it, and you can compete against people, and then it measures your reaction time. And so it gets the cognitive working as well as, and then you forget about what you're doing in terms of the fitness. It becomes more interesting, less boring, say cardiovascular training. So it's a really interesting concept, but it's one where you could completely gamify it, a bit like Peloton, so you're competing against people.
I guess the biggest challenge we've had of bringing, and this is where augmented reality comes in rather than the closed off Oculuses and so on, is the fact that you can see the environment you're in. That's the biggest challenge, because with fitness, obviously, it's all about movement. And obviously, when you go, if you try to do the Meta Fitness on the Oculus, for instance, you don't know where you are. You can tell where your hands are, but you almost don't know where your feet are in relation to the rest of the room. I mean, I've punched walls and windows and all sorts doing the boxing, where you sort of lose where you are and get overexcited. And that's been the challenge, I think, to taking it mainstream. And I think when you suddenly now, if you've got the option to go augmented reality, where you can actually see the environment you're in, as well as the game that you play in, it suddenly makes it safer, increases the access, doesn't it? And it means you can then put them into clubs a lot easier. And I think it's going to make a massive difference to where you can take the technology.
Yeah, I agree.
That was going to be my question. I was going to say, can you see it dropping into the commercial fitness world?
Absolutely. I mean, the home use is the obvious market, but I could see, obviously CV isn't as popular as it used to be. But if you're on a treadmill doing this at the same time, or a bike, it's working the brain. It's increasing that cognitive power. It's increasing your reaction time. So as well as sort of the gym chains, you can see, for kids, in terms of development for kids, this could be an enormous market. So, it's early stages. We are looking for funding for that. If anyone out there is interested in getting involved, so
that's some money, John. I'll be there. I guess the other thing with it is, I mean, I don't know whether you've seen there's a couple of leisure centres down, I think it's Wales way, that have changed their whole studio. So now they have videos that push out onto the walls to create the environment they're in. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they effectively they can change the feel of the studio based on the class they've got because of the videos they're able to put out. And what you could do with augmented reality, you wouldn't need all those videos. You just put the glasses on and you change the whole environment. You want to do yoga on a beach in Australia, you do yoga with the glasses on and you're suddenly in a whole different environment, aren't you? And it's all that you suddenly go, oh, wow, we can suddenly take the member experience from a standard to exceptional simply by investing in the right technology.
And augmented reality is just going to become part of life. I mean, in 5 years' time, it's just going to be everyone will be using it for all sorts of things. So
I like the shopping. I don't know if you've seen the shopping where you can almost go into Asda and pick your product off the shelf with your goggles, have a look at it, put it back, and you could do your home shopping as if you're walking through the shop. I love the idea of that because I quite like going to the supermarkets. So I quite like the idea that you can actually have your shopping experience at home. I think it's a great idea.
Is that randomly a bit like Amazon, where they show you looking at a product and they see it in your room? And you can scan your room with your phone and it will put that product into your room and you can imagine what it looks like.
Absolutely. A bit like clothing, isn't it? You can do it with clothing as well, can't you? You can put an image in, you can see yourself in it, but you can just imagine with augmented reality, you can actually wear it and look in the mirror. It'd be a whole different thing. So incredibly exciting. So we look forward. What we'll do, John, because that's a whole podcast in itself. Once a bit further down the line, we'll get you on because getting the demos and all that would be amazing to see.
Yeah, to be honest, this is not Dan and I's business. We're just involved, with that, non-exec directors and helping them going. So, but there's some really exciting people involved. One of the top guys from Formula One is one of the founders. He was he's called Joseph. I'm not even going to attempt his surname, but he trained Ayrton Senna. He's been involved in Formula One for a long time. So we're developing something for Formula One guys. I mean, you're right. It is a podcast in its own right, and as and when we sort of get a bit further along the line, we'd love to demonstrate it. But I suppose EMS is what I'm really here to talk about, because that's my business, and that's what we're developing.
Absolutely. So with EMS, obviously, Feel Electric. It's a couple of years now. You guys have had that.
Yeah. So 3 years we've been going. So it's 3 years old.
And what made you go with EMS? Because obviously you've come out of fitness, and it'd be good to go back to the Exercise for Less experience later on. But you've obviously come out of Exercise for Less. You've sort of looked around and gone, okay, where do I want to go now with my next investment? Why EMS? Just simply because it wasn't a big thing in the UK. Obviously, massive continentally, but
it is. Yeah. So have you ever done it?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm a huge supporter. I love it.
So I'd never done it, and in fact, it was Dan Clayton rang me up, and he'd just done it, and he rang me and said, have you ever tried this EMS? I never even heard of it, never knew anything about it, and he sort of explained to me what had happened, and put me in touch with Mio and Phil Horton. Phil came to my house with a setup. And I did a session, and to be honest, it just absolutely blew me away. I couldn't believe. I just couldn't believe. Yeah. I couldn't believe how I felt after just 20 minutes. I mean, it was like. I mean, I've trained. I'm an ex-professional rugby player, trained all my life, lived in gyms, and I felt. After 20 minutes, I felt like I'd done a 2-hour really big gym session. I was really pumped up, but for me, it was the mental side. It was I was getting the same chemical reaction that I would had I done a big run or a big gym session. So for me, it was a combination of things. First of all, I was blown away by how I felt physically, but mentally, I was just. Hence why we called it Feel Electric, because I was buzzing. I was buzzing. It was like one of the best runners high I'd ever had, and it was 20 minutes. So I was blown away. After that first session, and then Phil's obviously bringing EMS to the UK. He's not stupid. He could see I was really interested, and the first thought that crossed my mind was, well, everybody needs to know about this, because I could just see the potential of this product in terms of what. Well, if I go back to the Exercise for Less days. Why did I do that? What was I interested in? I was interested in bringing health and fitness to new people, to a new market. That's why we did the budget clubs, because we were opening up a whole new bit of society that could finally afford and access gyms, and they couldn't before. And so it's the same with EMS for me. Not so much obviously on a budget level, because it's different, but it's I can see how this just will open up health and fitness to a whole new range of people who couldn't access gyms, because they didn't want to, didn't like the environment, felt intimidated by it. B, couldn't access it because of mobility issues. EMS is it's a low impact. We've had people in wheelchairs come and do EMS sessions, people who've had strokes. So it opens up to people who can't access gyms for mobility issues, but it's time. It's 20 minutes. So and let's face it, we are such a time for society now. For me, I just went, wow, you can feel like this.
It's quite a hard one to get your head around, John, that 20 minutes. Because Andy came to my house, funny enough, just after COVID and did the session. And I felt the same, absolutely buzzing. I have chronic fatigue, so I have to be careful what I do sometimes. And I just felt brilliant after it. I felt sore the next day, but I felt like I'd had a good workout. But that 20 minutes makes you go, 20 minutes once a week or once every 5 days seems very short. And again, but it's true, it works. But I guess do you find that's a potential barrier that people are so used to in this country? It's 3-4 sessions a week. That's what you've got to do. And
so to me, EMS today is like budget clubs were when I started doing budget clubs. The similarities are, the parallels and similarities are amazing. You know, I remember going in 2010 and 11 when we just started opening budget clubs, going over to Germany to look at McFit, if you remember McFit. And You know, Germany and McFit have been around for a long time. There was budget clubs all over Germany in 2010. And you know, I came back and we started opening budget clubs. And people going, well, you're mad. How can this work? How can you charge $9.99 or $12.99 for membership for a 300 station gym? It's not going to work. It's just, how can that work? Can't be, because it was new. It's different, so people just don't get it. And you go to Germany now. There's depending on your definition of an EMS studio, there's between 2,000 and 3,000 EMS studios in Germany today, right?
Wow.
So I've been to Germany, and it's like looking into a crystal ball. It's like in 15 years' time, I know for pretty much sure there will be, might not be 2,000 or 3,000, but there'll certainly be at least 1,000 EMS studios in the UK. There will be, because it's exactly the same as budget clubs were 10, 15 years ago. It's the same thing. We're just behind the curve in the UK. I mean, obviously it's German technology. It started in Munich. That's where it started. But you can just see where it's going to go as a market, because, you know, it's the most effective form of training you can do. You know, I mean, let me explain to everybody so they know what I'm talking about. What you do is you put a bodysuit on and you do a 20-minute soft workout, you know, squats, lunges, Tai Chi movements. You know, you don't even use any weights. You just have to tense your muscles, and you have an electric current put through your body for that 20 minutes, right? But if you go to the gym and do a bicep curl, then you're contracting that muscle probably once a second, something like that. The EMS contracts it 85 times a second. Wow. So it's basically, the electricity really is making it far more efficient. Not only that, if you do a conventional workout, you're probably activating 60 to 70% of your muscle fibers. With EMS, you're activating 98% of your muscle fibers. So if you're doing a full body workout with an EMS suit on, you're working everything, absolutely everything, which is why, you know, people do a 20-minute session and then the next day they wake up and they've got DOMs like they wouldn't believe. And they're going, how's this happened? Because I just did a 20-minute really light workout, but it's just activating everything. So it is so efficient, unbelievably efficient, but you've got to be careful because it's powerful stuff, which is why you can only do the strength stuff once every 4 days. It is a powerful force coming through your body. And if you do it more often than once every 4 days, you'll create too much creatine in your body. So safety is paramount, which is why in all our studios, you're instructor led. I wouldn't tell anybody to go and get a machine themselves and do it themselves at home. You need to be led by an instructor who knows what they're doing. Safety is paramount.
I think that adds a lot of value for a PT as well, doesn't it, or an instructor? So going away from a conventional training methodology to bring in an EMS and offer that point of difference from a PT standalone or in a club, I think it's huge for them.
The market. There's no doubt. You know, we're at the start of the innovation curve. You know, we've got some early adopters and we've got some innovators, and we're just starting. Like we started budget clubs in 2009, we're at a similar sort of point, but it's going to lift off. You know, as a concept, the more people understand it, the more people do it, and then go and tell their friends about it. You know, it will just move up that innovation curve, and you'll hit the tipping point where it becomes mainstream. I mean, I remember when we opened budget clubs, we did the second one in 2010. And people coming and going, well, I don't believe it. What's the catch? You know, I don't believe it. How can you do it? How can you do it for this price? You know, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. But then people started training and going, oh, well, actually, you know, you get a 300 station gym and it's $12.99, and it just becomes part of your life. And it's the same with EMS. You know, we've got people who've been doing it for a couple of years now. It's just part of their life, and they tell everybody what amazing results they get and how they feel. And more people do it, and you know, it will become mainstream, and then you know, it will get to a point where there'll be EMS studios everywhere. I mean, I've been to Munich. Munich's a similar sort of size of Leeds, similar sort of population size, and there's like 80 studios in Munich.
Bloody hell, wow.
They're just everywhere, and they're next to each other. They're on every street. They're everywhere.
And I guess the nice thing as well, John, is because of the studio. I mean, you can explain how you set the studios out, but the actual entry to market, say for, and we'll come on to your franchising stuff in a minute, but because it's such a low entry point, you're not. I mean, you go and look at some of these other franchises. You're looking £500,000 investment and the rest. I mean, it's usually a minimal £500,000 to open a gym franchise. And you guys are nowhere near that, simply because the kit, you've got 2 or 3 stations in each unit, and what, 1,500 square foot?
No, not even that. 800 square feet. That's your footprint. So 800 square feet, high street. Well, let's face it, there's lots of high street units available at the minute, you know. So that's not an issue. And you've got 2 EMS machines. And we also do an in-body body composition analyzer as well, because what EMS is great at is it builds muscle mass, and which is great for older people. So as soon as you've got, you know, sarcopenia kicks in probably once you hit 30, so you start getting muscle wastage at 30. So increasing your muscle mass is incredibly important the older you get. So it's great at that. And then obviously on the back of that, you're burning more fat, so your body fat reduces. But what we found out initially is people who just weigh themselves, women started saying, well, I'm not losing any weight. But obviously they're gaining a little bit of muscle mass and toning and firming and losing body fat. So you're not going to lose weight, but you're in much better shape. So the body composition analyzer is really important. And it's the InBody 770 gives you huge amount of metrics to analyze, you know, visceral fat, cell health, you know, in a society where we're increasingly looking for more and more data about our health. It's a really, really great piece of kit. And but it fits nicely with what we're doing. But 800 square feet, 3 machines in effect, you know, for a franchisee, 20 grand will get you going.
That's just bonkers. And the great thing is, because your units are so small, rents are lower, business rates are lower. So you look at the whole model and you go, actually, if I'm looking for a fitness business that can run alongside, or almost as a second business, you could do it. It's quite an easy thing to get into, rather than having to go, I want to invest £500,000, put my house on the line, all that sort of stuff for potentially a franchise. Where yours, you just don't have that. And you're going, actually, it's almost future-proof, because this is where it's going. You can look at Italy, Germany, France. So ultimately, the business is there. It's just people taking that plunge and going, actually, it's a new technology. Now we need to drive it in the UK.
That's it. So it's well, it works. I mean, we've been doing this for long enough to demonstrate that it works, both in terms of getting members results, in terms of you know, opening up completely new markets for people. So really, yes, people who go to the gym. So I go to the gym a lot, and I do EMS as well. And my gym sessions are so much better because I do EMS. But that's not really our market. Our market is the 85% of people who don't want to go to a gym for whatever reason, whether that's time, mobility, you know, just put off by a gym. So it's a far bigger market to go at, and that's who we're trying to tap into. So again, coming back to my what I'm passionate about is getting health and fitness into people who previously haven't, for whatever reason, been interested or couldn't do it. So it sits nicely with me. I'm passionate about it. But what are we? We're not really an EMS provider. Okay, we're a software provider. So what we've done is we spent the last 3 years developing our own platform and building software. That's what we've done. So we've opened up a load of studios. Well, we've done 8 studios, really just purely for R&D purposes. Okay. So the biggest, or one of the biggest learnings from X4L was build your own platform from day one. and we didn't XFRL, and it causes huge issues. I mean, don't get me wrong, because that whole 10-year experience of exercise for less was just 10 years of learning, 10 years of making lots of mistakes and learning lots of things, and all of those learnings have gone into Feel Electric. And one of those learnings is, build your own platform from day one. There wasn't a specific platform for an EMS studio out there, just didn't exist. And so I had a CTO employed from day one of opening the first studio, because I knew we were going to go and franchise it. We just really spent 3 years doing all the R&D, learning lots of things. And we built a fantastic platform that, incorporates obviously all the data from the EMS and the in-body, but also we've got nutritional programs, and we're just about to introduce wearable tech as well. And then you put AI on top of that, and all of a sudden you've got something really quite interesting in terms of a data piece. But EMS on standalone is brilliant. But what are we? Ultimately, we're going to be somebody who's licensed software through a franchise model. That's what we're aiming to become.
Okay. And in terms of the franchise, then, I mean, obviously this launched at the sort of back end of last year, didn't it? In terms of officially going live with the franchise. How do people get involved in that? What's where are you currently at? What's the sort of expansion? Where territories you're looking at? That sort of thing.
So for the next 2 years, we'll be focusing on the UK. Although we've had inquiries from the Middle East, we've had inquiries from Europe, but really we want to nail the UK. So we've got our first franchise sold at the end of last year. So they'll be opening next month. And it's with franchising, it's really, it's getting the first couple away, getting good testimonials from them, and then people understand, what's involved. But it's a proper turnkey solution because we built our own platform, but we've used all the experience from XFRL in terms of multi-site management, and we've incorporated all that into a really, really neat turnkey solution. So anybody can do this, and I mean anybody. We could take anybody who wants to run their own business and is passionate about getting people results, and we can train them. We can develop them. We can help them run their business. It is a proper turnkey solution. That's not just a sales speak. That is reality.
I think that's key with the franchise, isn't it? Sorry, Ryan. It's the support element that franchise provides. It's the value. And a lot of franchises, some franchises don't provide that support as fully as they suggest they would. So I think for me to make it work is having the hand holding and the support to then provide that.
Yeah, because it's you're aligned. Ultimately, we're taking percentage of their revenue, so we want them to be successful. But again, it comes back to, why am I doing this? It's really about changing people's lives, and getting them into a successful business is brilliant. I love seeing people succeed. So anybody who's willing to put some effort in, a little bit of capital, not much, but mainly has the passion for getting people results, because that's ultimately what we're interested in with the EMS and how we have our setup, is we want our members to get results.
And in terms of the profitability, John, I mean, are these sites? I mean, obviously, you don't need to go through your full profit P&L. I don't expect that. But do they get to profitability fairly quickly?
So you can you normally break even within 3 months. So it's really quick, because in fact, if you take into account rent free, you probably do it quicker. But from an accounting point of view, your rent free spread across your period of your lease. So, but from a cash point of view, it's probably it's quicker. They're small units. If you have 200 members, you're making really good money out of this. So you just need to get to 50 members as fast as you can, which you should be able to do pretty quickly. And then they do make good money. But you can, as an owner operator, it's obviously quicker. But from an investment point of view, if you wanted to as an investment and employ staff, you can do it that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's EMS. It'd be really interesting because obviously you had a really long career with Exercise for Less and the budget model. Not really a area I've worked in. I don't think Rob has either.
Not properly, no.
No. So it'd be really interesting. obviously, what made you go, we want to do this differently, so we're going to go into that budget model first? Because obviously that's a huge risk, and absolutely, when I first saw them, I went, how the bloody hell do they make money on £9.99? Obviously, I come from the likes of Holmes Place, Marriott, that sort of where you sort of, it's all about service, it's all about, and obviously charging £50, £60, £70 a month to suddenly go £9.99. I'm sitting there going, how are they doing this?
Well, let me give maybe a bit of background story to it. So I always wanted to do my own thing. You know, I'd worked in the industry for quite some time, but I always wanted to do my own thing, and then took the plunge and set up a sort of a mid-market club in 2008, which wasn't ideal timing.
Absolutely,
yeah. You know, and also for, you know, what could go wrong went wrong with that project. I mean, it was a disaster from day one. So from 2008, 2007 and 8 were not great years for me. You know, originally I had a business partner who pulled out, so ended up borrowing too much money, really, in hindsight. The building contractor went bust halfway through the fit out. And then we had a recession, so it was very difficult time, very unpleasant period of time for me. And it got to the end of 2008, and it's one of those scenarios where I'm either going, there's no point doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I knew I had to change something because it wasn't working, wasn't making any money. Right. So I think the gym group just opened their first budget club in Hounslow in 2008. So I went and had a look at that, and I thought, yeah, this looks interesting. So I did it because I had to. I had to make a change. So I can't sit here and go, oh, do you know what? I came up with budget clubs, and, you know, I can't say that. But I made the change in January 2009, literally chopped the price in half, took out some studios, put some more kit in, and turned it into a budget club. And I went, within 3 months, went from losing money to making money. And it was at that point, I suppose once you go through the experience and understand it and see it and feel it, then you understand it better. So we did that first club in 2009, and I thought, oh, well, let's do another one. So we did our second club in 2010, and literally we pre-sold that, and that was making profit from the day we opened. And each time the first club was 20,000 square feet. The second one was 27,000 square feet. And each time we did it, it just got so full, actually it became a bit unpleasant. People were queuing for machines. And so this is why we kept going bigger and bigger. And then club number 4, which was Leeds, nearly 40,000 square feet. Wow. We got to 14,000 members in that club. Which was, you know, I mean, it was on Kirksville Road, so it was near all the universities, so it was full of students. I mean, in the summer we lost about 5,000 in the summer. Back in September.
We had a fitness first club that was like that. It's the one in Nottingham. We'd suddenly, when everyone was there, it was about 2,200, and then they'd all go.
So this was why we went down a bit of a different path to Pure and Gym Group, because I always felt the customer experience and journey of a small budget club was unpleasant, because you were queuing for machines. There's too many people in there. So we went bigger and bigger. So our typical footprint was between 30 and 40,000 square feet. But we were the biggest. That meant we could be the cheapest because we could get more members in. So that our USPs were biggest and cheapest. And that's how it all started. And then we did our first PE deal in 2013 and took it from there.
Wow. Did you always plan to open multiple sites, John, or was it more of it just happened? Well, one worked, let's try another and try another.
So as with all things, it's all about timing. So depending on when you ask me that question, so if you'd asked me in 2008, no, I was definitely not going to open any more sites. But once we could see it working, and budget clubs are like a property play, really, you know, because there's not much staffing involved. So you just find the right location, fill it with the right kit, and, you know, market it properly. and it was quite easy, especially in those early days. You open a club and it just filled up. And it made lots of money.
I guess in the early days, it was pure on price, wasn't it? Because everyone else you were competing with would have probably been 30, 40, 50 quid a month, and you're suddenly going in at the prices you were.
Yeah.
And it's like a no-brainer for so many people going, well, I've got the kit, I'm just going to go there.
Yeah. But it comes back to what we talk about EMS, people not understanding it. Well, in those early days, people would come into the clubs and they go, what's the con?
Yeah.
I don't believe you, because it's new, and so people didn't understand it. I mean, it's an easier concept to get your head around, because you see the gym, you see 300 stations, you see your deep direct debit, and it's a really quick. You go up that innovation curve really quickly. EMS will be slower, because obviously what you're doing is you're putting a bodysuit on, putting electric current through somebody. That is a whole new product, new experience. Whereas a gym's a gym. If the only difference being one's half the price of the other, then clearly it's really easy to understand that as a concept. Whereas EMS is it's a completely new experience. But once people have done it and go, wow, I can't believe I feel like that after 20 minutes, then it'll soon spread and it is lifting off. I mean, we've got 4 sites open in London. We're starting to attract a few celebrities now coming in, and people are starting to hear about it. And each January,
there's a lot of sportsmen doing it as well, John, isn't there? There's a lot of you see on the adverts from Mia and stuff like that, the amount of athletes now using it, especially abroad. So you've got that scientific backup with EMS, which is good. Just on, you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but in terms of exercise for less sort of folding and not, what do you think was the main reason? I mean, obviously you may not have been involved in that, but why do you think that didn't work, and potentially Pure Gym and the other budgets carried on? So
I was involved because I was still sat on the board, but I wasn't involved operationally, but I was still a non-exec director. So I suppose let's go back to 2013. Why do you do a private equity deal? Well, there's 3 reasons for doing a private equity deal. 1, putting money into the business to increase your expansion and roll out faster.
Yep.
2, for you as an entrepreneur to get cash off the table and get it repaid for the blood, sweat and tears that you put into a startup. And 3, to bring expertise into your business. Those really are the 3 reasons why you do private equity. And unfortunately, because I was young and stupid, I didn't understand the importance of the 3rd one.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I was blinded by the 2nd one. And I was dealing with a private equity firm that just kept throwing so much money at me. And it was completely the wrong thing to do at that time. In hindsight, now we've had COVID, which destroyed shareholder value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please, I did do that, but it's just a question of timing. But the PE firm that we worked with didn't do the 3rd thing particularly well. So we certainly didn't have the financial rigor in that business that you would expect for a business of that size. I mean, ultimately, I became a very small minority shareholder and got out. So, they ran that business. It wasn't funded adequately, in my opinion. And then when COVID hit, we had quite a big unitranche debt facility, and they got offered, they got offered a significant amount of money by JD to in effect take them out. And they did what anybody sensible person would do, and they got their money back.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's
but I mean, I'll be honest. I put my hat into the ring as well and tried to buy it back, but I got outbid by JD, and I was really pleased I did, because that was in the first lockdown, and subsequently, I think it's been quite tough for operators to come back from that. And they've got deep pockets, so they could do it far deeper than my pocket. So.
I guess that you can still look back and go, you built this great thing. And most of those clubs, let's be honest, most of those clubs went on to be refurbed, and they are now part. I mean, I don't think there was many closed, physically closed down and moved out of the estate. So I think you can still look at it and go, actually, what we built is still there. I mean, there's so many chains over the years that if you look back, that have been brought into somebody else and the clubs are still thriving. So from a positive from that, you can still look and go, actually, the business is there. It's just under a different name.
Yeah. No, I mean, JD taking it on was by far the best outcome for that business. In terms of saving jobs and saving sites. Like you say, I mean, I think there was only very few got closed down.
No. I mean, they were nice clubs. It's just obviously it's a bit like LA Fitness. LA Fitness, there was the same thing, wasn't it? They were thriving at one point and then got bought out, and then they were swallowed up by others as they went. So it's just sometimes. And the good thing is you came out of it on the positive side, obviously with the money in hand, and you're able now to invest in other unique projects like the augmented reality and stuff like that. So you can take those things forward. So going forward, John, in terms of the industry, where do you think we're going? I mean, obviously, because it's sort of splitting now at the minute, and it's sort of, you've got your boutiques, you've got your budgets, and then you've got this massive movement to wellness and well-being that's sort of going on as well. Do you think the private sector will be dragged into that well-being movement, or do you think it's going to say public sector and there'll be other changes in the industry?
I think the private sector invariably will get dragged into it for sure, because society, people are becoming much more health conscious, and they're sort of they're thirsty for data. They want to know. Everybody's wearing wearable tech, and they're thirsty for data. So I think it's inevitable, in my opinion, but we'll see.
But I guess my challenge is at the minute we're so splintered in the sense that you've got public and private, and it isn't really conjoined enough. That this great work that say the public sector is doing to drive this well-being, and when it isn't really being dragged across, because they seem two very separate sectors within the same industry. So I don't know what it will take to bring that all together to make that work.
Well, we as an industry aren't that great at collaborative thinking, are we? So
no, absolutely. Well, probably a good point to leave it there. In terms of innovation going forward, I mean, obviously augmented reality, EMS. Do you see anything else coming forward as to the shape of the industry going forward?
Wearable tech's the obvious one. I think we're becoming so data rich. People want to know. They want to know everything about their health now. So it's not just about what exercise we do, but nutrition clearly is very much part of that. I mean, the younger generations seem far more interested in a healthier diet than possibly our generation. I mean, my kids, they're not interested in drinking or anything like that. They want to eat healthily and exercise. So the younger generations are far more educated in terms of than we were in terms of nutrition and diet. So I see that as central to certainly to what we're doing moving forwards. The reality is you can't out-train a bad diet. You never have been able to. So nutrition and diet is central, I think, moving forwards.
And in terms of, there was one interesting, and it'd be good to hear your thoughts on this with what you guys do with EMS, because obviously EMS, you guys probably see them once a week on average, maybe twice a week with some. And to make that client journey. Now, we were speaking to Richard Sinnott. He's a consultant, been in the industry, you might know him, 30 odd years in the US. And they've got a big concept with their active communities about fitness without walls. So what they're trying to do is work with clubs, the big athletics clubs, to sort of go, it's not just about what happens in your club. It's having those contact points with the clients outside of the club. And I guess this is where tech comes in, doesn't it? Because you can almost sort of go, well, you can wear and you watch. I know what you've been doing when you come and speak to us for your EMS session. We can also talk about your nutrition, how your health has been, what other exercises you're doing. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that concept of and your client journeys with EMS in terms of bringing the wider packaging. So what else the client does outside before they come to your studios.
And that's our development for this year. So we're syncing in our next sort of development of the software of the platform that we built is syncing in with wearable tech, so we can get that data. Because I think you really need a 360-degree view of people now. You know,
I think so.
it's not, you know, what's the new marginal gains? Well, sleep is one of them. You know, everyone talks about how much better they feel after a good night's sleep. I mean, we can tell all the stories about Bradley Higgins, you know, taking his bed round with him on the Tour de France. You know, sleep is a marginal gain, and we all know if we don't get a good night's sleep, then we don't feel great the next day. So measuring that's important. So we've been testing some wearable devices in terms of measuring people's sleep. Stress levels is another one. So, you know, you need that full picture. And
you guys should talk to First Beat. First Beat have got a really good one that works with stress, and you wear it for 3 or 4 days, and it gives you a real good picture of a person's outlook and how their body's reacting.
But it's all connected. It's all connected, and ultimately, it all comes back to your diet. You know, we are what we eat. So I got a teenage son, you know, and he's up and down like a yo-yo. And when you analyze what he eats, it's crap. It's just full of sugar. So, and he says, Dad, you know, I feel, you know, I'm up and down a lot. Well, look at what you eat. If you eat sugar, then you're just going to have highs and lows, and you know. So it's getting a better understanding and a better knowledge of people's diet specific to them, because everybody's different. But you know, I mean, we're seeing general trends. You know, obviously the people we see generally tend to be a little bit older. Our markets, sort of 40 plus. And you know, generally speaking, we're not eating enough protein as we get older, too much carbohydrates. But you know, we are what we eat, and diet is where you should be starting any health and fitness journey.
Isn't it funny how it always comes back to that side of it, when actually your business is the tech, but actually the advice that they're getting on food and nutrition and that is probably more important than the actual tech that your system is, because obviously you're bringing the both together, they're getting this amazing service, but ultimately you're using the knowledge to drive them and use the tech to support that. But
we have a full-time part of our offering. We have a full-time nutritionist, which people have access to. But of course, the first thing the nutritionist tells you to do is to keep a food diary, which is the sensible thing to do. But getting people to keep a food diary is very difficult, even though we built the tech that makes it really easy. And they say, well, I haven't got time to do it, but it probably takes about 30 seconds a day to keep a food diary. And actually,
I think it's not given to do an honest food diary, though, isn't it?
Yeah. But the thing is, when people start keeping a food diary, the psychology of actually putting everything down, you know, the psychology stops them from overeating anyway, because they've got to admit to it. But what we can do, because it breaks all the macros down in our platform, we can really look at, well, you are eating way too much carbohydrate, not enough protein. And it's just subtle changes in people's diets has such a dramatic impact on people's outcomes. It's not, I think that's the problem. People think, oh, I've got to go on this big diet and starve myself, which is the worst thing you can do, obviously. It's just subtle changes. But it's got to be sustainable as well. And that's the great thing about EMS, because it's only 20 minutes and you can do it once a week. That is sustainable. You know, how many times we've all seen it in our industry, people join in January, they've gone by April because they can't sustain 3 or 4 times a week. Whereas once a week,
joined by the 1st of January, gone by the 15th is usually usually the way. Now, one thing I'd like to ask, because obviously we're running out of time with you, John, which is a shame. But couple more questions I have, and I'm sure Rob's got one. But in terms of advice, because obviously you're not just a fitness business owner, you're an entrepreneur. And so anybody looking at this and listening to this, do you have any advice on someone who's starting and going, I want to own my own business, I want to be in fitness? What are the sort of, 2 or 3 things that they need to look out for, need to consider in order to make a success? The sort of things that you've learned over the years.
Well, you know, I've been asked this question a lot. The number one thing you need as an entrepreneur is resilience, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, success does not travel in a straight line, unfortunately. And, you know, you get more kicks than you get cuddles in this game. So you've just got to be resilient and never give up. just keep going, and persistence will always win the day. So that's the first thing. I mean, obviously, I'd say come and buy a Feel Electric franchise. That'll make you really successful. But
Absolutely.
what can I say? I mean, what else can I say? There's so many different elements to it, but resilience is the number one thing. If you've got resilience, then you look at the common trait of well-known entrepreneurs. They've all failed at stuff, but they just bounce back and they just do something different or pivot. That's what
I think the key is they don't let that failure define them, do they? And I think that, and it's like you were saying, your club was on its knees and everything else, and you went, well, failure's not defining me. We need to change this. What we're going to do, and so you said it was a really hard time for you those 2 years, and I know I lost the club as well, so I know exactly how that feels. And it's like going, well, as long as you don't then sit back and go, that's how I'm defined, and you move forward, and you find another way forward. That outlines a real entrepreneur, I think, and I think you have that in spades. Obviously, you've developed big companies, and you've gone, okay, now it's time to move on, and then we move on and we do something else, and you get success again, and you've learned from that all the way along. Rob, do you have any other questions for
Yeah, I was just literally thinking then, obviously, John, you're a seasoned professional in this game, so you've been around the block a few times, but for a newcomer coming in, so would you ever look at kind of mentorship, that kind of thing, or is there anyone that you rely on, or is it more business partners?
So I never really had a mentor, to be honest. Yeah. I kind of just made it up as I went along, which is probably why I made so many mistakes and had to bounce back.
I'm with you.
So I can't honestly say I ever had a mentor. I mean, I've clearly got some good colleagues, and it comes to no surprise that half of head office in Feel Electric all were at X4L. So we worked together for a long time. My CTO, he came from X4L. Our sort of learning director, she did as well. So we've been together for a while. So I've got a good team, and we bounce off each other. And I suppose my management style is very collaborative. We discuss things, but equally I make decisions really quickly. I don't tend to think about things too much. If I think it's a good idea, we just crack on and do it.
Cool. I like that.
And the last one, really, further down the line, do you ever see yourself getting into, I suppose, the mainstream fitness, back into conventional gyms?
No.
Not for you.
No, that's a really easy one to answer. No, because I've been there and I've done it, and it doesn't really interest me anymore. No, technology's where I'm interested. The next thing, the next phase, biohacking. Making things more interesting, quicker, easier, faster, simpler for people. That's what I'm interested in.
Nice.
Casey Conrad's gone into that. She's gone from sales to biohacking.
Sorry, and don't get me wrong. I go to, I'm a gym goer. I go to the gym. I've got my own gym at home. I don't go to a gym. I go to my gym, but I go virtually every other day. So I am a gym goer, but it just doesn't interest me. Yeah,
that's fair enough.
Well, like
one final question I've got, John, and we ask all our guests this, is in terms of inspiration, who or what? Is there someone famous or even your family who you look up to, or that inspires you to do what you do, or is it yourself? so something
I suppose the one person that I really has inspired me is Simon Sinek.
Okay, yeah.
If you come across him, and it was, exactly. It's that theory of why do people do something? I suppose, and when I got into listening to him, I really questioned why I was doing something, and that's why X4L wasn't about making. It was about making money, clearly, but that wasn't the primary goal for me. It was about making fitness accessible to people that couldn't access it before, make it affordable for people. And I suppose if you get the why right, then the success follows on from there. And again, with the EMS, why we're doing it, we're making it more, we're making fitness and health accessible to a whole new range of people who couldn't before for whatever reason. And it's the same kind of philosophy.
Brilliant. I love that. Well, on that note, we'll leave it there. I mean, that's an hour gone like that, John. So really appreciate your time this morning. If anybody does want to get in touch with John, we'll have the details at the end, whether that be for John directly through LinkedIn and so on, or regarding your EMS franchise. I think it's, if someone is looking at a concept in terms of a new business and in the fitness world, EMS and Field Electric is definitely an option for people to look at. I think with the low entry to get in, as well as the concept, I think it's a really good opportunity. So thank you very much for your time, and we will do one again when you got your augmented reality thing a bit closer.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks,
Cheers,
Rob.
John.
Cheers.
Awesome. Let me end that.